Hello and welcome to the Off Meadow Umineko Read Along podcast, the podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We're discussing its narrative and themes, and they'll work together with our community to try and solve its various mysteries. Hope you all join us in this exciting journey as we delve into Witch's Catbox. I had to write that. The fucking intro has like the hardest line to say out of all the things I fucking say, and I get stuck on it every time. They will work together with our community to try and solve its various mysteries. It's such a hard phrase for some reason.
Together, yeah. Wow, I've already screwed it up.
Yeah,
they will work together with our community
T's.
to try to solve its various mysteries. A lot of a lot more to. Anyway, you call it working together with our community. Our community hasn't helped us for shit.
That's true.
Yeah, they just laugh at us.
The majority of them already know what we're doing, and they're just to laugh.
We've had a couple people that have been following along,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, it's hard to get them to commit to such a slow read of such a long thing. So we had a couple people that joined in for bits and pieces of it.
This is going to be our what episode is this for us? So 6 per episode, I mean, and then the message bottle. So that's what 6 times.
We're probably around 50, is my guess.
Yeah, I think we're just over 50 at this point. And our podcasts go for about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. You edit it down, so we'll say 2
It usually
hours.
ends up being about 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yeah, so that's only 100 hours of audio, and
Yeah.
that's just us, not them reading it.
Yep.
Small commitment.
It's a big ask, yeah. But that's also why I like this as a podcast premise, because this will always exist, right? If someone wants to start reading Umineko, they can just follow along as if they're following. Like, there's no difference, right? You can still just follow with the reading schedule, come and watch an episode. The Discord theoretically will still be there, assuming Discord still exists. That's in the wind, I guess, right now.
Or assuming Adam doesn't delete it on a whim.
That's true.
We all know what he's like.
Adam, please don't do that.
Anyway,
Right, where okay, sorry. I'm about to introduce y'all. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on our one-way trip for Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, James Capelli, Hayley, and Ben. Welcome, y'all. So, how was your read this week?
hype.
I will say, I want to start this one because I am making the prediction now. Episode 7 will be my favorite episode.
All right.
I am fully engrossed, and maybe it's not the best artistic critic in me to say the climax of any mystery novel when the detective explains what happened is my favorite part of a mystery novel, but it absolutely is.
I mean, it is pivotal, yeah.
It's absolutely my favorite thing to listen to. It's my favorite thing to read. It's my favorite part. I'll go back and just watch those parts of the Knives Out movies or
Oh, interesting.
read those parts of a book if I own it again, because I just think that the way that they lay out everything is always so interesting. And this is so far I'm getting answers, and I love answers.
Do you just watch the 3 endings of Clue as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them, I'll look them up on YouTube, but I've seen clues so many times, I don't need to watch the rest of it to know what the endings mean, per se.
Amazing.
I always love when a mystery shows that it has multiple endings and none of them really make any sense. One of them kind of does.
I'm going home to sleep with my wife.
That's the one that kind of makes sense.
I mean, that's technically the true ending in Clue, but
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
Wild that they
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember, include, was it you get an ending and the real ending, or is the real ending just mixed in with the ones you could possibly get in theaters?
I mean, it's called the real ending years after the movie came out, but
yes.
So obviously it's the most correct ending because it clearly incorporates all the actual clues. it's
Yeah. So what happened was when Clue was released, each
Mhm.
theater would get a specific ending. And then when the DVD was released, it would show all 3 in order.
yeah.
It would show one, a second one, and then it would it had the title card that said and here's what really happened, and then show the final.
Yeah, so there's a chance that you just got it's so wild. I could see you getting one ending and the real ending, or the other ending and the real ending, but to get just some people get the actual ending, and some people just get what is clearly not correct.
Yeah.
I went to a anniversary showing of it, several months ago with some friends, and the guy whose idea it was to go see it didn't know that when you go see this movie in its re-release in theaters, they just pick an ending, and so we got the first ending. And then the credits roll, and he's like, "Where's the other 2?" He was wearing a shirt, and on the back of it, it says, "But here's what actually happened." He's like, "Where's this? Where's this?" I was like, "Sorry, buddy. The cult classics, you get what you get. I'm sorry to tell you." Oh, it's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one.
Anyway, my read was good.
Yes, to answer the question. Thanks, Ben, for being the only one to answer the question there.
And then take everyone off on a tangent.
Yeah. I'm apparently more than willing to go on these tangential rides today, so we'll see. I'll try not to be too bad. Yeah, I enjoyed this read a lot. I like Kinzo's backstory more than the smattering that we kind of got. I didn't care too much about what we learned from Maria. I really didn't care what I learned about Jessica. I thought it was all just like the majority of this is just like, all right, we're tying up a lot of loose ends here, guys, you know? And I'm just like, all right, it didn't add much to me for what I thought about these two characters.
Okay.
I wanted George's, but then he ran off, and so it's like, all right, I guess we don't need him.
I enjoyed this read. Yeah, I don't know. I think I might be like Ben and see this as my favorite.
Yes.
And even be basic bitches together.
Seven's a lot of people's favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said before, I think this is one of my least favorite arcs when I first read this. Again, mostly because I was just not paying enough attention to like be ready for the answers in the way that I was giving them, and I was too much into the story itself, right? Going from like the end of 6, which is like very much like you're really in the Battler Beatrice story part, into this complete like tone shift again really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of colored my read of this one as a little bit less enthusiastic. But like obviously going back and rereading it, there's a lot here. In terms of answers, of course, it gives you a lot of really good answers if you're paying attention. And also, it's just some really good storytelling. Getting to hear backstory for Kenzo was especially great. And now we're getting to get a little bit more information about Maria, which gives some, I think, some really interesting stuff. And of course, we're about to go into even more detail about the culprit. So that will be fun for next time.
Yeah, buddy. I'm so excited. I will also say I love Will and Leon just as a duo. I think that they are a breath of fresh air after the past 6 episodes. And I think that's part of why I like episode 7 so much, is that I feel like I'm outside of the cat box in a moment. Like for right now, even though we're like mixed in with all of these things, I feel like, oh, these are people that are coming at it from an outside point of view. Battler is so emotional all the time. Beatrice obviously has her own stakes in this. The witches all have their own stakes in this, but like Leon, and by what they learn at the end, and Will, who's trapped there against his will, but is able to like look at this more objectively than anyone, means that I, as a reader, also can now have like a passive voice that's with me, as opposed to one that's so invested.
I partially agree with you. This is going to taper off, isn't it, as we go? I'm going to be disagreeing with you very soon, I'm sure. I really like Will's character and do feel that he's a breath of fresh air, but Leon is almost a little bit, I don't know how to say this. I feel like they are like a battler crossed with bunch of others. I don't know. It's the incompetent thing again that's coming through for me. Like towards the end of this particular section of the read that we'll get to. Like there's just a lot of, it makes no sense. And I'm like, come on, it makes tons of sense. What are you talking about?
It doesn't make sense to them. I don't think that they have the background.
To be fair, it is about their life from an alternate universe. So
yeah.
Like contextually, they have zero context.
Yeah, and we'll get to this by the end, but I really felt for Leon by the end of this, and think that he is the character that has the most sympathy from me so far.
Yeah, he, they, she, whichever pronoun we're going to use for them, and it is ambiguous.
They also say you can use whatever you're more comfortable with, you know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm enjoying the flashbacks, especially like with Kinzo, right? But on the board, the game board, there's just no resistance. There's no adversarialness to it, which I can say like that's a breath of fresh air. It's like we get someone who's seeking the answers, and it's not a contest. It is just there's a mystery, and Will just gets to come in and solve it. No one's running around murdering people, or he is like my world's been turned upside down, which is fine. I'm enjoying that. But that lack of headbutting, I guess, is probably what's going to keep this from being my favorite. And my favorite's probably going to be somewhere in the questions are, just because the building of suspense, the building of mystery, I enjoy that more than the reveal myself. And if the reveal is done masterfully, you know, I still super love and appreciate that. And that better be what happens with this story, Kyle. It's
We'll
been
see.
2 years of my goddamn life.
We shall see. I think I made it very clear that
2 years so far.
so
2
far,
years
yeah,
so
yeah.
far.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think I said before. There's some built-in, not hedging, but there's some ambiguity built into this tale on purpose. That's kind of what we're seeing with the Leon assigned sex at birth kind of question, right? There's some things that the story is deliberately leaving open to interpretation or obscuring so as not to. I don't know. We'll get more into it, I think, in the next reading about why they're doing that.
Cool.
And what exactly they're doing to leave things open, because that's definitely something that's going to become quite apparent once we get to that. But for now, This week, we read about 2.5 hours of the visual novel, ending on the line, then the two of them looked into Bernkastel's eyes, and Will spoke out clearly. Here's the culprit, which is videos 116 through 118 of the YouTube playlist. If you're not caught up to that point yet, go ahead and stop the podcast and catch up before joining us, or if you're just listening to us along for the ride, welcome aboard.
Is that the right one?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Hayley,
that's the
did
right
you
line.
stop at the original stopping point?
No, was that not the original stopping point?
No, that was the updated one.
We shifted it a little bit. Let me see. You definitely got some into the part. I think you probably stopped the right spot.
I stopped it as I think it was Bernkastel on the screen,
Okay.
and
yeah, yeah.
it said here's the,
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah.
Okay.
You're dead on. You're dead on. You're good.
No, I knew Kaylee at least got to that point because we'd gotten some talks in DM, so I knew at least that part had been reached. So I knew we weren't missing much, if anything, or if anything, you'd gone over a little bit. But no, if you'd gone over, you would have messaged me about that because the thing that Ben accidentally saw.
Oh
Well,
no!
I sent it because I'm like, well, I always hit that X button. I always
Yeah.
do it. I always get the scene transition. So I know where I'm starting at the next time, so I can just pick it up right there. But
Yeah, and when you do that, you get something.
I then saw the picture and went, huh?
Yep, it's a weird one. Well, we'll save that for next time because that is they're gonna get some more information about them then. So, all right, anything else y'all want to talk about before we jump into the plot summary?
Next reading is the solution to the epitaph, right?
No, we've got a bit for that. I think Solution to Epitaph might be 7.5.
Oh,
So we've got possibly, I think, 2 episodes before we get to it. It's like really near the end of the episode, actually. I was surprised. I thought it was sooner in my memory, but it comes at the tail end. All right. Our story resumes with Will and Leon reconvening out in the chapel waiting room. While they learn a great deal about Kenzo and his love for Beatrice, nothing of that can be said to answer the question they are tasked with: who killed Beatrice? Leon says they should hurry up since the funeral is already over, but Will replies that what they're doing now, is Beatrice's funeral. With 2 of the 3 Beatrices explained, and no signs of either having been killed, that just leaves the current Beatrice, the Golden Witch. Will turns to the cousins, specifically Maria, for more information about this Beatrice. However, it would seem that Battler himself is not present at this funeral, likely kept away by Bernkastel to prevent Will from getting certain answers too easily. Leon says that they and Battler had got on well, being the 2 cousins closest in age. But of course, Leon would have to pinch his butt whenever he would say something perverted. When Jessica greets Leon in her normal crude manner, Leon is forced to do their duties as the older sibling and give her a good pinch as well. As Leon bullies their younger sister a bit, George laughs that Jessica probably would have been a prim and proper young lady if she hadn't grown up always being compared to the perfect successor, Leon. Of course, we and Will know that would not be the case.
I'm so glad Jessica just is who she is. Like, that's really the only thing I have to say. I was so relieved to see that. Like, yeah, Jessica, I wish you could tell him.
Yeah, I mean, is it lazy writing to where they not have to actually bother changing any of the characters between the 2 worlds? Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. But I like that she is who she is.
it is a little, I don't want to say frustrating, almost heartbreaking to see, like, apparently, right, in this fragment, the family turns out a lot better if Leon just lives.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some pretty serious trauma that is just yanked right out of the entire dynamic if some things just don't happen.
Yeah.
I guess I was wondering how Kinzo's alive in this, and I guess Leon just being here leads to him.
Probably didn't drink nearly as much, right? I mean,
Yeah, he leads a healthier life, right?
Yeah. Now that makes sense. It's something I didn't really think about. That's a great point.
And actually, also, I was wondering about the scene where Kinzo's children, the parents, they all like turn inward and they kind of gossip about, like, we all know that Beatrice is just his mistress, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's out of character for this film. Like, they would not just openly say that, but dynamics have changed a little bit. So some characters have changed this alternate universe, at least a touch.
I think it's interesting because what Bernkastel has constructed here is 2 versions of Jessica that are kind of in one. Because we talk about it later, but Jessica obviously has memories from a world without Leon. So the fact that she is relatively the same, or you just can't tell as much, is actually could be 2 different personalities kind of conflicting here. That's kind of how I see it, is that most of the people that need to give Will information have to be able to tell their side of the story from a different universe than the one Leon lives in. And I'll talk more about that in a moment, like when we get to that part. But I think that's why it's not necessarily that he's just the author.
Rikishi.
That guy didn't just change the personalities, but I think that there's almost like a blending such that you shouldn't really be able to tell that maybe things are a little out of place here.
Yeah. Because on that note, we don't really see if any of Maria's, like Maria from like the Leon timeline. It seems like that's thoroughly Maria from the Beatrice timeline, right? Because none of her stories are really anything that would make sense from a Leon world perspective. So it's possible there would be more differences, and we just aren't shown any of that. And it's like basically just like Leon, Natsuhi Krause, and like Jessica that have major changes, and everyone else is just kind of merged into their baseline timeline self.
Well, we kind of get this discussion in episode 5 with Lambda Delta running the game, where Bernkastel's like, how did you change anything before October 4th? And she's like, I'm not answering. So it kind of like with all the stuff in these memories, it kind of seems like they cannot change things before that day, but they can set the game state to exist as if something had been different.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that Bernkastel kind of said. Like, this cat box is a broader cat box that contains Beatrice's original cat box. Beatrice's original cat box is like exclusively, October 4th, 1986. Things are locked in at that point, and there's like the 2 days where things can kind of shift from that. Whereas this cat box kind of has to include some stuff that reaches, back where the past can be changed in order to have the Leon timeline be included. So Will introduces himself to George and Maria, and when he says that he wants to know more about Beatrice, Maria immediately lights up. Wanting to shake hands with someone who also knows the same Beatrice she does, Maria accidentally activates Will's theater-going authority and draws him into her inner world. Apparently, because Rosa had repeatedly told Maria that she didn't have a father, Maria developed quite a complex about her parentage. When a priest visited her school one day and told her that Jesus had also been born without a father, she became convinced that she too was a child of the Holy Ghost. This is why it is important to keep religion out of our schools.
Oh, Kyle, I love you.
My laugh wasn't recorded because I was muted, but Jesus Christ, I just burst out laughing.
Whereas Beatrice always said that it took two to create a universe, Maria could create one by herself with the Holy Ghost. That is what made Maria the Witch of Origins, and perhaps one day a creator herself. Maria could create something from nothing, and Beatrice the Endless Witch could expand on that infinitely. Together with Angie as their apostle, they were Mariage Sorcière.
This poor kid.
So yeah, I do want to stop and talk some about this reveal that Maria's occultism comes from literally the Bible. Like she is a hardcore like Christian occultist, which is surprising. I guess not really, because like that's what like a lot of the stuff she's talking like, oh, you don't know your Bible? Here, let me read you the Hebrew from the magic circles and stuff like that.
Yeah, we touched on that before, right?
Yeah,
I think that there was a lot of like religious symbolism through.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Early on, for sure, there was.
But like it was peppered in with enough of like the talk of like demonic circles and stuff, like summoning circles and stuff, that it wasn't too laser focused on Christianity symbolism and the allegory itself, that didn't dwell on it too hard. Like this is just like kind of almost a slap in the face. Like this is it. This is the answer to her psyche, and it's just like, damn. The first line that is said at some point that talks about it, I immediately messaged Kyle. I'm like, when your character immediately starts comparing themselves to Jesus of Nazareth,
yeah,
you've got a story on your hands.
And that's one of the things that makes me so sad about this reveal, because it's like, well, I'm going to get more into it but like Maria was groomed twice here, right? This priest drops this like
this priest fucked her
like
up.
This thing about like, oh, you're a child of the Holy Ghost, and Maria's like, oh, that means I'm a child of God, like in like the physical, and the priest like, yeah, I'm not gonna correct that, just gonna let you run with that for the rest of your life. Like, what the fuck?
But there are plenty of people who would A, push that a little bit, and B, would be either so caught off guard they wouldn't know what to do, or C, wouldn't recognize quite exactly what the child is saying.
Yeah, that's probably more likely, is that like, oh, yes, you're a child of God, of course. And then just like, they were only there for a day, and they left having no idea that they just set this kid off on a course that would eventually lead to them joining functionally a murder-suicide cult.
I forget what communion it is that uses like the joke of like, when one thing leads to another, to connect like two drastically different things. So this priest is like, well, one day I went to talk about God to this, this group of school kids. One thing leads to another, and I destroyed an oligarchical family by blowing it up on an island.
That's very funny. I love that.
We'll get into the Beatrice side of things here shortly, but Maria got done quite dirty.
This was just really sad. Yeah, it was really, I felt this was really sad.
Yeah, my heart breaks for her more and more, and my hate for Rosa grows even stronger.
Yeah, I don't know. My opinion didn't change on Rosa. Maybe it's already as low as it could possibly go. But Maria here, she latched onto that because she I assume, felt and I was going to say feels, but no, everybody died. So alone. And to have any kind of father figure was more important to her than reality. And it's just devastatingly sad.
Well, it's just a strong desire to seek out a sense of identity, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
story even says everyone around her has two parents. Why
Yeah.
doesn't she? And she's denied any semblance of the truth.
Even gaslit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
by Maria Rosa.
really, she is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awful.
And so it's like, yeah, sure, Rosa was young, but she was also still an adult. I mean, we've had plenty of episodes where we've talked about this in depth. It's a lot to unpack. It's not easy to make sweeping statements. Hasn't stopped me before, but
All right, let's talk about the Beatrice side of things. We'll as Maria back up to when she had first met Beatrice. Already knowing so much about the Bible and the occult, Maria had thought that she was a witch, and thus wanted to meet the supposed witch of Rokkenjiima, Beatrice. One day, while Maria was drinking milk tea alone in the rose garden arbor, Beatrice suddenly appeared and introduced herself to Maria. At first, Maria thought that Beatrice wasn't a very good witch, and she didn't seem to know nearly as much about the occult as Maria did. However, Beatrice quickly won Maria over by showing her some actual magic, by summoning a candy inside an overturned cup. Maria had been immediately humbled and resolved to become a proper witch herself. However, Beatrice tells her that she is too weak to take on a disciple right now. However, Maria can be her friend, and as long as she's a good girl and didn't doubt Beatrice's magic, not only would the candy Beatrice had told her to put in her bag for when she got home remain, but also Beatrice would continue to meet her and show her magic. However, because Maria had doubted a little, and definitely not because she kept a caramel in her bag all day in the summer, the candy had melted a little bit, reaffirming Maria's resolve to believe in Beatrice's magic. Apparently, Maria would meet with Beatrice every time she would visit Rokkenjiima from that point on, and never met her anywhere else because, of course, Beatrice's spirit was still bound to the island. Well, at first, Beatrice couldn't appear in front of anyone else. Eventually, she gained enough strength to appear in front of all of the servants, besides Goda, and even Dr. Nanjo, and invite them to her witch tea parties with Maria. According to Maria, Beatrice planned to gather her strength and one day be resurrected and acknowledged by all humans. While Beatrice Castiglione and Kudorian Beatrice certainly existed, it would seem that the Beatrice of 1986 alone could only exist if she was acknowledged. But if she didn't exist in the traditional sense, what would it mean to even kill her? The egg of Beatrice had been created by someone and nurtured by their interactions with Maria. Beatrice was only truly born when Maria acknowledged her existence. However, this Beatrice is not the chick Beatrice we saw in the previous game that was born for Battler's sake, but Beatrice the Elder, the prankster witch of Rokkenjiima's night. Will pauses to ask if Bernkastel is enjoying his reasoning, and we hear applause coming from the audience. However, when Will then goes to ask more about Maria Sorcière, Bernkastel has Maria refuse to answer and leave, wanting Will to move on to another topic. For Maria, he had been shown the perspective of someone who believes in Beatrice. Turning to George and Jessica, it was time for the perspective of those who don't.
I will say I both was disturbed, but also kind of liked it when Maria was just like, I don't wanna, and then walks away.
yeah.
Because, one, I don't care about the magic sorcery or whatever. Least favorite plot points, IMO.
Are you ignoring the heart, Ben?
Yes. And I was very glad to kind of move on to the other side, something that is going to be very relevant in this next part. But I did find it very off-putting at the same time. It's very rare that you see just a in this case, a piece completely turn on what they were saying and act very differently, because I have a feeling that Maria, given free will here, would have continued to talk about it, but
Sure, yeah.
didn't. So other than that, it was cool.
So, this is a really interesting one. And of course, this is one of those ones where, the more context we have about the culprit, the more the scene will gain more meaning. But it's really interesting how Beatrice first appears to Maria. She's tricking her into brushing her teeth functionally, right? It's used as a tool to convince Maria to do things that she needs to be doing, to clean up after herself, wash her hands when she gets home, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was cute.
And then it spirals out of control from there, because we start from there and we end up at, as I said before, functionally Maria being convinced to join Beatrice's murder-suicide plan to kill everyone on the island. Because Maria's pretty bought in when we get to the actual events of the on the island. She sees she's people die in front of her. She's like, yep, cool.
Yeah, because she's already convinced herself that it's not real, or death is not the end. This is only the beginning of what we have in store for us. And
Yeah.
the absolute level of zealotry is terrifying.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting to compare the early description of these scenes to what it eventually becomes and how that could have occurred. Another thing that this made me think about was that this conversation kind of talks about Beatrice as, this entity that needs to be believed, right? And how important Maria's belief in Beatrice was to Beatrice existing in any real sense. And it made me think back to how Angie, as a child, had rejected Miria Sorciere, had rejected Sakataro and Beatrice and all that stuff. At 6 years old, she's been like, no, that's clearly not real, and rejected that world. How shaken must Beatrice have been in that moment to be like, how much time do you think she has left with Maria believing in her? You know what I mean? Like, how desperately you must have to hold on to, like, because we saw in episode 4, right, how codependent Beatrice and Maria were together, right? When the world was falling apart, Maria was like Beatrice's last bastion of, we together form a golden land, just the two of us, that's all we need. For Maria, who was obsessed with witches, obviously they created this world together, they fed this delusion together, and it spiraled out from there. But like, obviously Maria has a lot going on, would have believed in witches for quite a long time, I think. But like, I can't imagine that someone in that position, this Beatrice character, wouldn't have been thinking, how many years left before Maria also says that witches don't exist and leaves me?
I like that they compare it to Santa Claus. Because, I mean, that's like, if Santa Claus was in this story, that'd be kind of like, I don't want Santa Claus to go, but I also don't like being lied to.
Who do we think is embodying Beatrice here?
Oh, let's save that to the end.
Okay. I'll say I messaged Kyle saying this had better be Kyrie.
I've got my top 3 that I sent Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like, Will kind of goes through his reasoning on a few things, and it definitely gives you some good information about who this could potentially be. There's definitely a lot of clues in this segment kind of talking about, like, and apparently Maria met this person every time she came to Rokkenjiima, and she did not come to Rokkenjiima with only on family conferences. They would come other times as well, and apparently Beatrice would still meet with them. So that's definitely a big factor of limiting who could be doing something like this.
Yeah.
Assuming it is one person also, right? Because like the nature of the Beatrice being described here is also, it doesn't have to be one person theoretically, right? Because as Will kind of later speculates, Maria would recognize anybody who suddenly started talking like Beatrice and acting like Beatrice as being possessed by Beatrice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be one person from the Maria side.
I think it is one person, but yes, I agree that it doesn't have to be.
It would explain a few things. I'm pretty sure my top pick, I mean, there's like, logistically and thematically, it's the only person that makes any sense to me. Though my second pick is also feasible, I don't think it fits the vibe of the story.
I only have 2, personally.
Having just gotten ruthlessly pinched by Leon, Jessica laments that she had to constantly grow up in the shadow of the perfect heir that is Leon. She gets embarrassed when Will says that he enjoys her music and encourages her to live her own best life. When Will asks George about Beatrice, he says that while he saw the witch Beatrice as nothing more than a fairy tale, he thought that the adult thing to do was to respect a child's dreams. It would seem that even though most people on Rokkenjiima did not actually believe in Beatrice, because of Kenzo's and Maria's true belief, pretending like she existed became the polite thing to do. In order to have her existence truly accepted, Beatrice had escalated from simple nighttime pranks to eventually magical locked room murders. Until she was acknowledged by everyone, Beatrice would remain furniture, without the right to know love. However, it would seem that George knows little else about Beatrice, and hands Will's inquiry off to Jessica, who actually lives on Rokkenjiima. Once again accidentally activating his theater-going authority, Jessica begins to tell Will about a strange and frightening encounter she once supposedly had with Beatrice. To Jessica, Beatrice had always been a ghost story shared amongst the servants, not something she ever really cared about, given that she lived in the mansion and was used to it. But when Maria would come to visit and talk to the portrait like it was a real person that she would regularly play with, it creeped Jessica out. Maria's relationship with Beatrice was something more unhealthy, the childish fantasy that George and everyone else was treating it as. When anyone expresses doubt in Beatrice, Maria would become almost a different person. Jessica wonders if that witch-like persona was Maria's idealized self. This causes Will to think back to that time that Jessica had told the depressed Kanon that he should create another version of himself that he could grow to like. Sure would be awkward if Kanon was already in some kind of weird multiple identity situation with Shannon or something. And then Will turns to the camera and says, hey, look at all the hints the author gave to us about this even that far back in the story. And then, in an even more wild reveal, Jessica admits that she doesn't really have asthma and would fake a coughing fit to get out of uncomfortable situations. Returning to that day at the family conference, Jessica had continued to antagonize Maria, saying that Beatrice should just show herself. Maria had eventually calmed down by the time the family conference came to an end, having supposedly played with Beatrice, and this time no one attempted to contradict her claim. However, the next day, Jessica was still annoyed, and even Kumasawa continues to claim that Beatrice really exists, and that disrespecting her would bring a curse down on you. Jessica then interrogates Goda and Shannon about Beatrice's existence, and their inability to fully deny it only frustrates her further. One of the ghost stories they recount claims that Beatrice returns to the forbidden VIP room at 2 a.m. every morning. Jessica's excited to finally have a claim that she can test herself, and has them hand over the key to that room.
Okay, so first of all, when I read this about the faking asthma thing, I was like, do I really need to go back and look through every instance of where Jessica has this coughing fit? Because there's been a few.
It's only like a 2 or 3. Yeah, it's not that common.
Yeah, and as far as I know, it doesn't happen again after episode 2, right?
I'm trying to think. Did it happen in episode 3?
There's one that's more recently, I've thought.
It hasn't happened in all of the Answers arcs so far.
Okay, all right.
But I did have this conversation with Kyle as well, which we're going to get to after this next paragraph, I'm sure. But I brought up, and I was fixated on the asthma thing because I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean for the story? Didn't she die because she was having an asthma attack and then she got, secluded with it, Kanon and her inhaler in one of the episodes? And I was just, freaking out. And Kyle was just like, oh. And I'm like, okay.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, because that seems interesting because she had just embarrassed herself in front of Kanon and Goda because she was freaking out about the letter that Beatrice had left her in the VIP rooms, making fun of her parents for dying in the chapel, right? And so she was angry and kind of flailing around, and then she starts having the asthma attack, possibly to kind of get past the embarrassing thing she just did, and also maybe to get some alone time with Kanon, unclear. That's when he carries her into her room, and then they're attacked by Beatrice, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about that.
This next prankster bit, with Kumasawa, Kumasawa's always been the one that's insisted that Beatrice is real.
Oh, yeah.
So is Shannon and Kanon.
And she's the one that's always there that could be, Maria's Beatrice, and especially with the elderly wisdom of remember to wash your hands, right? And all that kind of motherly stuff going on there. I could really see Kumasawa sneaking around at 2 a.m. scaring people just for fun. I hope it's true.
Well, as we're about to get to it, Jessica definitely says that it would require almost all of the servants working together to achieve that effect. So,
Yeah.
It sure would. It sure would.
Except for Goda, because he only needs to be awake to cook. So I'm sure he doesn't have to do night shift.
Just saying, there's X amount of wolves in this island.
But only on the Leon timeline. In the other timeline, they're Beatrice's. So,
press X amount of wolves to doubt.
Welcome, Becca.
Hi, Becca. How are you?
Hi, Becca.
Hello. I made it.
Yeah.
You did it.
We talking about some witches and shit at 2 a.m. because that's about as far as I got in the reading.
That's where we're at.
Oh, good. So it's all fresh from here on.
That's literally where we were at, yeah. Yeah, also, did you have anything you wanted to talk about from the parts ahead of this time? The stuff with Maria?
Let me check my notes. I was like, there's a lot of information surfacing that is very in favor of the maybe Maria had something to do with all of this theories. Because I remember that being in...
Who could have seen that coming?
Right? That was a very early on theory that I think a few of us had, definitely Hayley had, about Maria somehow being responsible for a lot of this, if not all of it. But yes. I was also thinking about this maybe being a universal recurrence thing. And I don't remember exactly what sparked that thought that I put in my notes. But something about how Jessica is still kind of the same spirited woman in this version of reality that she is in the other version, and how Will literally takes a moment to admire, oh, she's still the same. She's the same person no matter kind of what universe you go to.
Yeah, we did have a conversation about that specific thing, actually. So that's very funny that you bring this up as you come in.
Yeah, I was like, there's the universal recurrence theory. All of this has happened before. All of it will happen again. Is this just inevitable in some way? How much of this is inevitable in some way? Anyway, getting real existential with it.
It's all, everything inevitable.
I did think it was really good, really funny that Maria thinks she's Jesus.
Yeah.
hitting the same topics we did.
Maria's witch Jesus. We're all on really hitting on the same stuff, which is
I
great.
don't know if any of us used the word funny. I get a kick out of you're like, it's funny. And we're all like, this is really sad. Becca shows up. That shit was hilarious.
It was. I will say it was hilarious, and I wish Becca would have been here for it because I was gonna raid on the Maria parade more than I already do. I wish I could find some ounce of compassion for that girl, but I can't.
Woof.
I can with her situation, but where she goes with it is just so wild to me that it's just
yeah, she's a very strange character.
It's crazy that she's I'm chosen by God when she's a toddler. Maybe 5 or 6 years old. The ego on a kid like that, that's just, how serial killers will often kill animals when they're kids or something.
Yeah.
It's the witch version of that, maybe.
If they had ever shown a scene with her doing that, her character changes dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
This is just a kid who wants to know who she is and to be loved, and it never happens. And this is what happens when the village shuns the outcast.
Mm-hmm. And then she was also given, unsupervised access to the Bible. Don't recommend that.
Yeah.
Only let your kids read the Bible supervised.
It's 2 a.m. in the VIP room. Do you know where your Bible and child are?
So true.
I don't even want them to read it supervised, Becca. Like, that seems worse somehow.
That's literally what got us into this mess.
But yeah, no, I mean, on a serious note, I do feel for her. Obviously, it is clearly a very extreme coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But it's just really funny to think about Maria being like equating herself to Jesus,
Mm-hmm. It definitely came out of nowhere. I remember when I first read this, I was like, what on earth? This is Maria's backstory? What?
But you know what's so funny about it? I was like, as soon as they started talking about how can a baby have a mommy, not a daddy, and I was like, her name is fucking Maria.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too.
That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, she's gonna freak out. And she did. And then, oh yeah, the way Will positing Beato as being furniture, like she's subhuman and wishes to become human by knowing love, which furniture aren't allowed to have.
Yeah.
Which once again raises the question, are witches furniture or is Beato something else pretending to be a witch? Who knows? But something else that I noticed as Will has been talking to Jessica, I think it was the moment when she introduces herself by like curtsying and he very seriously like kisses her hand because he's like, this is what we're doing right now. Very Kanon coded to me.
Okay.
Like he has a very similar temperament to Kanon, how they're characteristically portrayed. Very earnest, but also very serious. And like they'll surprise you when they're gentle almost because you kind of don't expect them to be because they're so taciturn. I don't know. The vibe doesn't not match. You know what I mean? So
I can see it.
thought that was interesting.
Kanon fucking wishes.
Leave my boy alone.
Oh, this is like a grown-up Kanon. After he's gotten over himself and, gotten a chance to learn and grow.
Right.
I'm with you, Capelli. I'm having one of those Jessica Asthma attacks.
Will has got like 5 years on Kanon too, at least. Like, give Kanon those 5 years. Who's to say he doesn't become that or more?
If you had to pick one, Will or
Amakusa.
Amakusa. You gotta pick one.
Amakusa.
Oh, that's a tie. I thought it'd be tough. Becca knows what she's about.
Will and I have too much in common. Will would be like my best friend.
Why do we have to pick one?
You can have both.
Exactly.
Are we certain they're not the same person?
No.
Even better.
I think they might be. I'm sure that there's one for it's one
That'd
for
be
one,
cool.
at least. Maybe
That'd be
two
cool.
witches per person, even fucking no.
I think Amakusa is the adult canon, and things go poorly. Well,
Amakusa?
No, I don't think an adult can exist.
Yeah, Amakusa is definitely a character that is rife for speculating.
I think it's hard to say because who really is canon and who really is Shannon? That could all be part of the personality blob, I think.
Yeah, but I think we're given a lot of times that Shannon and Kanon both die. Like, that I don't think that if they were on that island, whoever they is, being a singular person or not somehow multiple people, but most likely a singular person, I don't think that they made it off that island, whoever they are. Whatever body that they inhabit.
Eva did.
Somehow. That's still not really explained other than she was hiding in Kuadorian. Yeah.
She was in the Golden Land, which I think is like some kind of safe bomb shelter, like some kind of vault underground.
Yeah,
we do actually get a little bit more talking about that in the last segment where Will's speculating about where Will basically talks to the audience again and says hey, look at all the stuff you could solve with just the first 4 hours, which I don't know about that, man, but
she's so rude.
That's the one moment I wasn't too crazy about Will. I was like, all right, shut up, know it all.
Yeah.
I will say the way this is written, I do really like how we're listening to people's stories and Will is just asking questions, getting the answer and moving on to his next question without extracting what it means because it's letting us interpret, which I love. That was kind of my problem with some of this other story when it really takes the time to lay things out to you. Now I understand that that's all with a purpose. But
yeah, well, because Will's a more classic detective, right? He's
yes,
I am going to ask you just enough questions so I get the answer, and I meet the criteria for, the answers are there, and then I will tell you when I have the answer so you have a chance to go back and, come up with your own answer before I give it to you.
Yeah, it's great.
I like that we're not getting his first person point of view. So we don't get his internal monologue. Really, there's like maybe a couple points where he kind
There's
of
a couple of points, yeah.
extrapolates or exposits a little bit, right? But for the most part, he
usually says what he's thinking. He doesn't usually think a lot without saying it.
But he gets to the point.
I like him for that.
Yeah.
Just says what he means. Yeah. I think I need to tap out again, which is probably a good moment to do it before you go on to the next part. I'm glad we overlapped, Becca.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm sad I'm not going to get to hear your theories.
I will be in the Discord for this bit, and I will make my thoughts known. Don't you worry.
At 10 minutes before 2 a.m., Jessica heads from her room to the VIP room. While it was supposed to be meant for important guests, it had never once been used by anyone for as long as Jessica had been aware of. She had only once been inside the VIP room herself, once many years ago, when she had hidden there playing hide-and-seek. Afterwards, she had been scolded, and the servants had been instructed to keep unused rooms like that one locked from then on. Opening the door and turning on the lights, Jessica finds the room to be much the same as she remembered and heads inside. With no way to tell the exact time, Jessica is forced to wait a bit for 2 a.m. to roll around. While she's waiting, she finds a creepy small French doll of a girl with golden hair on the table next to the bed, as well as a small plate of sweets set out, as if an offering. Jessica muses on the nature of Beatrice's legend, but is startled when the phone suddenly rings. Assuming this is just a prank, Jessica answers the phone, and is surprised to hear Maria begins singing a song for Beatrice. Just then, the lights and phone go out, and Jessica hears someone crawl from the bed and move past her and out the door of the room while cackling. When the lights come back on, the only thing that has changed in the room is that the Beatrice doll has vanished. As nerving as it all was, Jessica remains convinced that it had been some kind of prank. After all, every part of it could have been done by one of the servants. However, the size and complexity of it was just too much to be a simple prank. It would almost be less scary for it to actually have been a witch's curse, rather than so many of the people she trusted going through such lengths to scare her. Jessica eventually settled on the explanation that most of what had happened had just been her being a scaredy cat and the power flickering out from a bolt of lightning or the like. However, Will seems more interested in the seating arrangements at the family conference the night that Jessica had been told the ghost story. Apparently, Angie had been seated on Jessica's right, but after saying that, she too seems to be confused about why Angie would have been seated there in her memory. Leon, meanwhile, seems to not only have never heard of this disrespectful ghost story, but apparently has never heard of Beatrice being described as the witch of Rokkenjiima's night, or as a reason not to go into the woods. And it would seem that in Leon's world, the epitaph doesn't even exist. Will once again asks about the people's placement at dinner, and Leon says that they sit across from Jessica, and as Eva's family is the next ranking, George is to Leon's right. Leon has no idea what this is supposed to mean to Will, but apparently it's meaningful, even if it is all mashed together in a confusing mess.
Question. Is the song that Jessica hears on the phone the same song that Maria sings into the phone line in episode 1 before they...
I think so.
So if that's a recording, I don't know what that means, but it's something.
That's very funny. I haven't thought of that. When does that play?
When Natsuhi kicks out Maria, Kumasawa, Goda, and Genji from the study. The next time they hear from them, the phone rings, and then it's just Maria singing that song.
Oh, and is that at 2 a.m.?
I don't know. I don't have the time off the top of my head. If it is, interesting, but why would it bring Kinzo's study?
Yeah, I can't say I know.
I mean, it could just ring a specific place. We do think that there's somebody else on the island, or there has to be, in my opinion, and that it can just channel it through the right place to make them scared, and they have a recording. Possibly whatever Beatrice played with Maria at some point had gotten a recording of Maria singing this song to then play later as part of the prankster witch stuff. I don't know. I could see a couple of possibilities here that this is a recorded line that's meant to really just throw like fear and unease into whatever situation is necessary. I do find it interesting that this whole idea that Jessica was going was that apparently at 2 a.m., Beatrice returns to the VIP room. But that's not what we saw. What we saw was somebody leaving the VIP room.
Yeah.
And or we saw a doll being there and then not being there, which is weirdly enough not someone returning to the VIP room.
Unless somebody returned to grab the doll and left.
Ben, this is how you get cursed by Beatrice. You got to stop this line of inquiry. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. That's very disrespectful of you.
Shit. Look, my partner already started playing Resident Evil recently, and
Mm.
I've already been scared multiple times. I just, like, that doesn't line up. Why is there a story that somebody returns to this room, but then what actually happens, what is shown to us, is that somebody leaves the room and takes a doll with them? Like,
Mm.
that, to me, that just doesn't add up on why is there like, was the story just to get her to get there? Was the story just always been there, but then somebody realized they could not really show themselves at 2 a.m., so they had to make something else happen? Like,
And who made that creepy laugh?
Yeah, I mean, from the prank perspective, this was done within. Jessica asked about it that night, and then this had to be set up before 2 a.m. that same night, right?
yeah. But that's still not somebody returning to the room.
Yeah, no. I mean, so there may have been limitations on what they could do, and this was as close as they could do to like doing that. I can see that with a little bit more knowledge of a couple of things. I would say that's probably what it is. It's not like but like there's some stuff that's speculated about. No, I can't really talk about that. It's not really interesting either, so it's not really worth getting into.
Sure, it's interesting to somebody, Kyle.
Like I can't talk about it because it is a spoiler, but it's also not an interesting spoiler, so I don't want y'all to be like, ooh. It's like, no, it's not really.
I will then pop in because this was the original stopping point for this reading.
Yes, yeah. Because I wanted y'all to kind of get a chance to stop and think about
Yeah.
what you thought was going to be the reveal here before we would get to
Yep.
it next time. But then I was like, well, no, the next reading is kind of its own thing starting, so we really gotta get this last bit in, I think.
And I was very happy about that. But I did stop at this point and I called Kyle because I hate writing, but I love talking. And I was like talking out my theories and whatnot. And one question was posed to me was who killed Beatrice? And I'm very proud to say that I did guess it correct.
No, the first one, you got it right?
I got the dead cat correct. And
Nice.
Kyle can back me up here.
Yes, yeah.
So I felt somewhat smart. I was like, I finally did something. The pieces just had to be put in front of me, and then I could build a tower of truth. But I needed all the pieces, and I didn't need to figure out what shape the pieces were in.
Yeah, we had to have a conversation about like what is the seating arrangement at the family conference,
The seating arrangements, oh my god.
because they harp on that quite a bit.
And it makes sense once you like spend 20 minutes talking about it. But like,
Yeah, it's
if
so
you're
specific.
just reading it, yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Ben, like, I had to go look up the chart because I was like, I was like, I don't think this makes any sense, Ben. Like, you're asking me the answer on this, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about this. And I had to go find an actual, like, someone made a chart of the seating arrangement, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, it does actually work. Yeah.
I just asked Kyle, I was like, is this explained in this reading? He's like, yes. I'm like, great. I don't have to think about it. I kind of get what they're probably getting to, but I don't want to think about this.
Yeah, and it does lead you to the right answer if you really think about it and figure out what they're saying, which is part of the different universes theory that we kind of talked about. Yeah, Becca, you had mentioned how like Jessica's the same in the universes that we're looking at here. What you had missed earlier was that I had said maybe it's like a mashing of two universes, that like this is because this Jessica has memories from two different universes kind of in her head, but doesn't realize it nor knows how to parse that she even has them. That her personalities are also kind of weird because she gets flustered really easily by Will, which is not necessarily something that we saw all that much except for from Kanon. So it like we just don't have enough of the sample size of Jessica to know if really her personalities are exactly the same. But we know that at least some of her old personality is in there because she has some of her old memories when she remembers Ange sitting to her left as opposed to Ange sitting to her right, which are two different universes that she both has in her head.
Yeah. Is this the first evidence that we've gotten of somebody remembering things from both? Like, I'm just gonna call them like the major differentiation here is universe without Leon, universe with Leon. Right?
This is definitely the Leon timeline is how I've been internalizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jessica's the only person that we see that has memories of both because, well, Maria doesn't say, who are you to Leon. So I guess Maria at least has some memories of both worlds, but the Maria we see obviously is definitely seated mostly in the Beatrice world as opposed to Leon world.
Yeah, without Leon, because she had to have been meeting someone that could make this ghost story up.
Right.
Because the biggest evidence that we saw was that Leon doesn't know what the ghost stories are, nor has ever heard Beatrice be described as the Witch of Rokkenjiima. Because in their universe, there is no witch. Because who is probably the Witch of Rokkenjiima is Beatrice, but they are them. So we're going to get there.
I do have a seating chart of the family conference. If you want to understand what Will is about to talk about, I'll post it there and then I'll read that segment.
Yes, please. I was just trying to carefully look one up because my giant notebook of your summaries is in the other room.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who's been going back and reading through those at times, like while we're recording.
So here we have a seating chart of a table with Leon and a table without Leon. As we can see, when Leon is there, Angie's seat is to Jessica's left, but when Leon is not there, Angie's seat is to Jessica's right because they switch sides of the table. All right, well, let's get to this final bit because this is where some stuff gets revealed.
Oh yeah.
Having gathered all the information they need, Will and Leon return to the chapel proper. Leon is confused about all this talk about a Beatrice of 1986, and so Will says they will lay it all out. Will explains that the Golden Witch Beatrice started out as a combination of the legend of Rokkenjiima's evil spirits, a story to keep children out of the forest, and Kinzo's mad cries for his lost Beatrices. When Maria then wanted to meet the supposed witch, someone had decided to grant her that wish. Given how Maria already thinks Rosa is possessed by the Black Witch when she gets angry, it's possible that Maria would treat someone she knew, suddenly acting like Beatrice, to be possessed by the witch's spirit. The moment that Maria had been convinced of Beatrice's existence through the candy summoning trick, Beatrice the Elder was born. But if Beatrice is a character being performed by someone, how could someone kill them? Will says that there are two ways, and both of them are present in this mixed-up cat box. The living cat that can kill Beatrice because they are the one who had been acting as them, and the dead cat that never gave birth to Beatrice in the first place. And that dead cat is none other than Leon. After all, in every story about the witch Beatrice, Leon is missing, as can be determined by the seating arrangements Jessica and Maria described. And with there being no witch story in Leon's timeline, it would seem that Leon and Beatrice are two sides of the same coin. Having deduced that Leon is 19 years old from Jessica's story, a certain theory becomes possible. That Leon is not the child of Natsuhi and Kraus, but actually the child of Kinzo and Kuwadori and Beatrice. As soon as Will says this, Bernkastel appears, applauding Will for figuring it out so quickly. It would seem that Leon is the child that Kinzo had given to Natsuhi to raise 19 years ago, in the timeline where she accepted that child rather than pushing them off a cliff. 19 years ago, Rosa had accidentally led the Kuwadori and Beatrice to her death. The child that Kinzo then tried to push on Natsuhi to raise as his heir could only have been Kuwadori and Beatrice's child. A child Kinzo created when he could not separate the memory of his beloved mistress from her daughter that grew to look so much like her. Leon is both Kinzo's grandchild and child. Leon is devastated at the revelation that Natsuhi was not their real mother, but Will reminds them that if Natsuhi never gave any indication that Leon was anything other than her own child, that is something to be grateful to her for. However, Bernkastel butts in to let us know that Natsuhi pushes Leon off of the cliff in all but one of 2,578,917 worlds. And in those other worlds, where the child is rejected, they inevitably become Beatrice.
I was watching Becca's face when you read that last line, and her eyebrows just shot up whenever you read that number. It was very funny.
Here's the thing. I already had a theory that Leon was Beatrice somehow, but I didn't have any kind of substantiation for it.
Yeah,
beyond like
that's fair.
the art.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it's like, if they introduce this character, like obviously it's got to be something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you look at the hair and it's like,
And also, yeah, like the lack of a gender
Mhm.
designation.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, literally the character design is very much like Beatrice, but wow.
They did a good job making the hints all there without giving it away immediately,
Yeah.
I would say, with the character design.
it also helps that the pace of 7 has been so quick that
Mhm.
you haven't really had time to sit back and digest all the little clues they're giving. And it's just like, okay, well, here's this answer that we've been alluding to for the past, 4 hours of reading. And it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't make you feel stupid for not getting it. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, wow. Okay, it's perfectly well timed.
They are doing a good job revealing things in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had figured that the person from 19 years ago was going to be the dead cat. Like, I hadn't put it in that exact same words to myself, but I was just like, that's just like what the role of this person fits it. And then it's like, it's
Mhm.
Leon. I'm like, of course it's Leon. Look at the hair. Look at the age. Look at the timing. It's like, I felt a little silly for not having made that connection. But,
Yep.
The pieces were there.
I had put stuff together after talking out with Kyle. I will say, I don't think I would have been as definite on Leon being the dead cat if I hadn't been able to talk it out with Kyle a little bit.
Yeah.
But I will say I did not put together that then Leon was the child of Kinzo and
Yes. Yeah.
Kuwadori and Beatrice, which is a wild thing to put, but also very masterfully done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just like how when you and I had joined our theories at the end of episode 5, 6,
6.
I think 6, we figured out the Shannon Kanon same person theory. If we had joined our theories for this one, I think we could have gotten all of it
Yeah.
together.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like Occam Fraser's solution, right? We have all these kind of disparate things. This is the answer that just like ties them all into one single answer. And unfortunately, it does mean that your called shot of there being incest involved is correct. Back from episode
Yep.
1, from downtown, when you're like, I think there's incest happening. So I was like, really interesting. Tell me more.
That's
What-
wild. Not where you
what
thought
the-
it would be.
Well, for me, most likely culprit Kinzo. Like, genuinely, I was
that's
like,
fair.
okay, yeah, if it was going to be anybody, it was going to be Kinzo. And
Mhm,
he's
mhm.
on some barbarian shit here. Fuck that. Gross.
yeah,
What do you remember? What had happened to have me pitch that idea?
it was about Maria. Like, when Kinzo referred to Maria as being painful, yeah, you were like,
Yeah,
is Maria like a child of incest? And I was like, weird to weird to hit on that one. What a and then it never left. It never left the world building. There was always that like I just feel like incest is involved somehow.
I almost brought it up earlier tonight, even that I was like, I had talked about this so many times about like possibly a thing, because when you introduce a character like Kinzo, that very, I'll say flamboyant, that's not quite the right word, but like
Sure, yeah, I know what you mean.
that I would always call him as very Shakespearean. At least he was in
Mhm.
episode 1. That big personality, over the top. It's just like, okay, well, what would a person like this view as an abomination? And like to me, like the jury is still not out. Like there's not some sort of revelation about Maria's origin. Not necessarily saying that like my original theory is correct, but just to be born out of wedlock, like I guess that fits Kinzo. Even though it wasn't really Kinzo, it was Beatrice like
Yeah, a depiction of Kinzo.
making him a piece on the board, but like you can't make a piece act. You can't have them do something that the true person wouldn't actually do.
Yeah, so I mean, the incest line, I think it's one of the things the story handles kind of poorly. I don't know. In some ways, it's nice that they don't like hark on it too much. Like they earlier when Kinzo's telling the story of Kudori and Beatrice, and Kumasawa comes in and is like, I think it's important that we tell her story. And they kind of allude that he may have gone too far in a few places, but like
Yeah, I picked up on that.
it's like kind of implied there, but it's also like, man, it makes me look at Kumasawa like, Jesus Christ, like she went along with this, like this happened, and she's still kind of here. Genji's still here, being like, yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, it's I don't understand. Like, I mean, this is definitely some cultural time period stuff, class differentiation stuff. I don't know.
If I'm in Kumasawa's position and this is happening, it's not like I'm in any position to stop him, but I am in a position to care for the traumatized child. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But
Oh, not to mention all the other children on the island who are affected.
Oh man, Kinzo is so awful. God. Like even after seeing the flashback, I don't think he started off awful, but losing Beatrice really like made him change for the worse in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, he was full blown crazy at that point. Like as he said, he was doing
Yeah.
like magical experiments to try and force this Beatrice to regain her memories. And even
Yeah.
then, even in the description he said afterwards, he still thought it was happening. He still thinks it was working.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
he's full blown lost his mind at this point.
And
Yeah.
like what we see with his backstory is like he is also the victim of trauma and his superiors
Mhm.
pushing it down him. Like
He sure is.
he goes to war completely depressed, suicidal, wants to die, finds an individual lifeline, and then she's ripped away from him. He has no understanding, no fathoming of what a coping mechanism is, what it would be like to move forward in a healthy manner because he's never had the chance to do like. So it's like, okay, there's a point where you go from tragic to sympathetic to crossing that line into full blown villainy and evil and insanity. And it's just like,
Mhm.
all right, at what point am I no longer rooting for this person? Right. So it's weird to go from like, I was never rooting for Kinzo. I always thought he was a fascinating character. I wanted more of him.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we get to the flashback. It's like, yeah, there's certainly a point where it's like, if you had a story that was just Kinzo's like story of, unknown person of family thrust into power, used as a puppet, goes to war, becomes lavish with riches, finds the love of his life, goes against his family's desire secretly because he has the power to do so. It's like, okay, at this point, kind of root for it. You do have kids, so I'm not crazy about that. Like, let's see what happens. You could have that story on its own, and I'd be like, okay, I want to know more. This is the sort of dynamics I really enjoy about Umineko, is how
Yeah.
they weave all these stories together.
Absolutely.
And I also don't think it's like you don't need to defend liking Kinzo either. Like he's a compelling character and this is a real bombshell to learn about him. But also like some of the most compelling characters that we love to watch are some of the worst people ever. And it's also like, yeah, kind of sense this coming from 500 miles away. Did we know it would necessarily be Kinzo? No, but I did have a feeling.
Mhm.
Just because of also all of the things that have been alluded to over the entire course of the story where like he's abusive to basically everyone in his family. So, but yeah, dark.
Yeah. Just a quick aside, just a little tangent. You made the comment of like some of the most deplorable characters, like, are the ones that we could still like relish them as a character for like what they bring to. Best character in fiction for me so far is Sandan Glokta from The Blade itself, or the first Law series. Complete piece of shit. One of the best written characters probably my favorite, like the best written character I've ever read in fiction. If you like the sort of gritty fantasy stuff, it's a very low fantasy series in that like magic is barely in the book, period. But he is such a the way he's written is incredible, and so I'm all for like these total pieces of shit people, and like show me like how did it happen, like how does, because like no matter how depraved all these characters are written, pales in comparison to true evil that people have been in history, right? If you wrote someone who you really were historically accurate, you are not going to make a character anybody wants to read because it's insane.
I mean, we know where that gold came from. It's not a pretty backstory where all
Yeah.
this comes from. So,
But I mean, at least it's not like he's the one who facilitated it, you know?
Child abuser with a hoard of Nazi gold.
That's literally what it is.
Good Lord. Yeah. And also, like, goodness for anyone in the Ushiramiya family is such an unachievable bar. Like, the scale on badness in the Ushiramiya family is sliding, but Kinzo definitely, I mean, at least so far, unless we learn we're about to learn a lot more information. So depending on what we learn about everyone else over the next episode and a half, Kinzo so far the worst.
I feel like all of the Ushiyamiyas turn out like with some pretty good qualities, not necessarily all good people, except for Rosa. Like her good quality is like she's good at business and she's good at her fashion design.
is she?
Like,
Is she though?
I was about to say, is she?
oh god,
Is
it's
she?
kind of hinted
No.
at like she could be, but she's very
They all need money now for some reason.
yeah. They need a lot of money right now.
Well, hers was imposed on her by the loan. Her business was doing okay, I think. I don't think she was doing like outright bad.
Yeah.
She's so overwhelmed by her pain that she elects to like go on these vacations with these guys, like, and the people at work laughed that like, of course she's not here. But if she was, maybe she would be doing well, and if she wasn't traumatized, if she had good support system in her life, like that's the kind of the line in The Good Place, that if people have good support around them all the time and they're trying to be better, like that's what it's about. Are these people trying to be better? I would say a lot of them, yes.
Yeah, there are definitely some situations that made this worse. So,
I'm going to take a diversion back towards what we were talking about, but also still a diversion. Do we remember how Kinzo reacts when the baby that he brings in front of Natsuhi is learned that he is dead? Like, that
He
they're dead?
breaks down in maniacal laughter.
Does he?
yeah, he starts laughing and says that, like, Beatrice, you have escaped me once again.
He like raises, he's like, ah, ha, ha.
Oh.
Like that was the
okay.
breaking moment. That is the moment he goes insane.
Debatable, but yeah, definitely not less insane.
I think that's the point of no return for him, because like even
For sure.
in this episode with Leon, he is much more sane. He's not locked up in a study. Nobody's saying like, wow, he's actually out and about. Like, no, this is the expected behavior. He's still extremely eccentric to have a funeral for somebody who died almost 20 years ago. It almost feels like it would be better tied into like Leon coming of age, but that clearly isn't like right around the corner, you know? That seems more like a 21 sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there that Kinzo turned out better when Leon survives.
Yeah.
Like, and in the other 2.5 million worlds, they don't. So therefore, this Kinzo is actually better than 2.578 million worlds.
This is the best version of Kinzo we get.
I mean, we also speculated that like it's possible that he's crying out for Kuwadori and Beatrice as opposed to BJ, which is what he calls the Beatrice that he originally fell in love with, right? So
Yeah.
it's possible that was definitely weighing on him way more than his original loss.
Gosh, I don't really want to get into this because it's disturbing. Do we think that he is viewing Leon, if Leon is a female, that this is going to go the same way that Kuodori and Byato went?
I don't know. I don't think so, because this
I don't get the
child,
vibe, but he's a sick man.
yeah, but this child was actually brought in front of his other family. I think that's the part of it, is like, this child isn't hidden away. Like, Leon is not hidden away like Kumadori and Beatrice. This child's brought in front of the family just as someone to raise, and then also denoted heir immediately.
Mhm.
But they don't really know why, nor can they really question it without getting reprimanded.
The moral of the story is I called it 2 hours into the game. Not even.
Yeah. That's a takeaway for sure.
Yeah, you're all jealous of my sense for incest in a story.
Your finely tuned incest radar was immediately hit off.
That and symbolism with lion statues. I got those 2
Yep,
points going for me.
Those are the two big ones. Right. Well, let's jump back in this. We just have a little bit left in this read. However, all of this is nothing more than a fun diversion to Bernkastel. She cares little for the possible cats that vanish once the cat box is open. What she truly cares about is the Beatrice that committed the Rokkenjiima serial murders. After taking a moment to process these revelations, Leon asks Will to tell them of the crimes this alternate version of themselves committed. Will offers to let Leon view the fragments of Beatrice's games if they think they can properly separate Beatrice's guilt from their own conscience. However, first he wants to know what Leon's gender is, as it's a persistent mystery across all games. In the 5th game, they're portrayed as a man, in other games, they're out to be a woman. But in Battler's 6th game, Zepar and Furfur were deliberately ambiguously gendered. Will says that he could see Leon as either a slim boy or a no-nonsense sort of girl, and Bernkastel seems to have been deliberately having other pieces avoid gendering language for Leon. Leon says that they have a bit of a complex about it, and they would prefer not to say. And of course, Will, our pansexual king, doesn't really care what gender his partner is.
I didn't understand this line then. I don't understand it now. What is the significance of Zepar and Furfur being brought up here?
Just that they are like the embodiments of the love trial and love, and they are also ambiguously gendered.
Okay, so he's just making an observation.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, Battler was definitely trying to bring to our attention the idea that fluidity in gender is an important part of the story. That was one of the clues that Battler was trying to drop in this episode.
I definitely thought it had to do more with Shannon and Kanon, and the fact that they go to gendered characters, but if they're two sides of the same coin, then what gender is the person that embodies both that coin?
I had a thought when I got to this point of the reading as well. Shannon or Kanon, which is the anatomical correct body? Is it Kanon's body is unaltered and then they have implants for Shannon? Or is it like with Kanon, I guess you can't. It gets into an observation of someone's body that I'm not really comfortable talking about too much.
Yeah, from my understanding, binding is not. Shannon's pretty busty. I would have to wager that it's more likely that padding is added rather than binding that severe is occurring to make, especially because Kanon is such a slight frame. So I would presume, and this is also, as you said, this is kind of an icky conversation, generally speaking, to kind of speculate on a person's body who is deliberately presenting in this kind of manner. But I would presume probably not expressing female secondary sexual characteristics.
And it could easily just be something that's just like
a hand wave motion.
It's an anime art style. There's fan service, and it is what it is. Not to go back to our fan service conversation from way long ago. You don't remember that? Doesn't matter.
Was it episode 2 at the end?
Hayley would remember what I was talking about.
I'm sorry, I'm not Hayley.
Nah, me too.
Yeah. Becca, are you Hayley?
I regret to inform you that I am not Hayley, and furthermore, I regret to inform you that it is in fact Jafar.
I request repetition in red.
I'm sorry, what?
I really hate to tell you this, but it is Jafar.
Is that from Aladdin 2?
What are we talking about?
Hang on one second. I'm so sorry. I made a really niche joke, and now I have to explain it to you all by dropping this link in the chat.
Oh, boy.
Despite our best efforts, we have no choice but to tell you that it is Jafar.
Oh my god. This is such a call to Aladdin. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was like, how old is this article? Yeah, 10 years ago. That feels like the comedy of the era.
What the fuck is this?
We are afraid that it is also Jafar in Glorious 3D. We will see if there's anything we can do about this. Okay, so the best we can offer you at the present time is Jafar next to a shirtless king.
I do not understand.
This is absolutely my sense of humor.
This is so my sense of humor too.
I'm so pleased that I got to be the one to introduce you all to this. You're welcome.
What is the meaning of this? I so thoroughly do not understand this.
It's clickhole, baby. You just go with it.
Yeah, like, is this some Gen Z humor? I am too millennial to
Were
understand.
you into cracked?
I don't know what else you need besides the headline, because the headline clearly states, "We regret to inform you that it is
Yeah.
Jafar."
My regret to inform you this is Jafar t-shirt is answering a lot of questions that you seem to still be asking, yeah.
Uh,
How does it feel, Kyle, to have questions that will never be answered?
All right, well,
Man, this is 5 days away from being 10 years old, Becca.
oof.
Wonderful.
This was published on March 8th, 2016.
Yes, I love that. Happy 10th birthday, one of my favorite joke articles on the internet.
this post is so old it would deny the existence of witches.
It probably would, yeah.
Yeah, but they would accept the existence of genies, which that brings in a whole nother story.
Shirtless kings, as the article says.
Sure. We love us a shirtless king.
Anyway.
Oh, boy.
All right, Kyle, get us back on track.
Yes, let's just finish up this last bit of reading.
Y'all kind of set me up with that one. I'm sorry.
Did we?
I'll take your word for it.
Leon chooses to see their alternate path, and then passes out after having so much information dumped into their minds so quickly. Will then turns to Bernkastel and explains the other cat, the living cat that represents the person who took on the role of Beatrice in 1986. Will claims that in the fourth game, Beatrice's origin story became clear, and from that he was able to deduce who they were and their motive for gambling their own fate in the commission of a game-like crime on October 5th, 1986. With the whodunit and the whydunit figured out, figuring out many of the howdunnits becomes possible. Even the who am I of the culprits that could kill anyone on the island at the stroke of midnight on October 5th could be theorized at that point. Will calls that the other treasure of the Golden Land. Bernkastel is impressed that so much of the mystery could be solved with just the question arcs, Beatrice's games. But the time for beating around the bush is over. What Bernkastel wants Will to tell her is, who is the culprit? Just then, someone who we aren't shown walks into the chapel, the true culprit. Bernkastel asks them if they wish to have a flashy battle of red and blue truths, but they decline. All they wanted was for someone to understand their heart. While Battler had finally come to understand at the end of the fifth game, he had been too late. And even though they were alive here and now, Battler could no longer save them, and that is why he cannot be present for Beatrice's funeral. In his place, Will would hear and accept the culprit's confession. And that brings us to the end of this week's reading.
I guess I stopped just too soon.
Am I the only one that read this far?
Because I got to hear just then someone who aren't sure walks into the chapel, the true culprit. I didn't read this.
I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, maybe the stopping point I gave in text was not clear enough exactly. Maybe they said something very similar just before this, and I just didn't realize that was where the end line was. But yeah, the final scene is they cut to like a blank screen whenever the culprit is talking. It's like from the perspective of like whenever like you want to have a battle of red blue truths, it's like a little head shake of the screen.
Yeah, the camera itself moves like they're shaking. It's like we're seeing from their eyes. Which is very cool. I was very impressed by how they were like still holding on, even in the last moments of hiding from us who the culprit is.
I need to hear you say less and go experience myself. I'm going to go dive in right now as soon as we're done.
All right, well, real quick though then, was there anything else you wanted to theorize about the culprit before we...
Oh, yeah, all right. So Hayley wanted to know who we thought was embodying Beatrice and all this time.
Yes.
So, Ben, do you know?
No.
Okay, so you didn't get that.
No, I got the first scene.
Yeah, Ben click when you click the next thing, it goes to the next scene and it shows a single sprite of something that is not going to make any sense without context.
All right.
And it doesn't make any sense, but I was also told it is not a big spoiler.
No,
all right, cool.
Like it's going to be explained almost immediately. So,
Becca, do you have a theory on who it is? I mean, this is the last moment. Like this is the last chance to get a theory of the culprit in, right?
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah, I think the next part is going to start giving information. They still couch a lot of stuff. They don't. I think I've said previously they never directly say X is the culprit. Never once. But we're about to see some stuff that is pretty blatant if you're paying attention. If you've been thinking at all about what's happening, it's pretty blatant what's happening. Unless you're stupid like me and was very confused in this part when you first read it. I think y'all will pick up what they're putting down.
Okay. Interesting. I am trying to think about who would have been embodying Beatrice this whole time.
Yep. As Maria says, she met up with Beatrice every time she came to Rokkenjiima. And she also said that she does not only come during family conferences, sometimes she comes between family conferences.
Like, I just am assuming it's Shannon Kanon.
Okay.
Sure.
Because we also know that Shannon and Battler have a little bit of a history, kind of, on some level, before she started going for George. So,
I mean, there is some precedent to that. Like, I think about the conversations that we have between Beatrice, Shannon, Kanon, either pairs of them or all three of them in the room at once.
Yeah, during the love battle segment. Also, there's also in episode 2 as well, yeah.
They're not in my top 3, but it's possible.
And if we already know that Shannon and Kanon are presenting themselves as two separate people, what's to say they're not changing their appearance a third way
Yeah.
to present as Beatrice for Maria and who knows who else?
And we do know that someone does appear as Beatrice. Not necessarily to Maria, right? Because, like, as Maria said, as Will speculates,
It could be anybody saying it,
anybody pretending to be, yeah.
Yeah, she would believe anybody. True.
but to Rosa.
But someone appears in Rosa claims to have seen a Beatrice. Curie claims to have seen a Beatrice.
Mm-hmm.
Badler literally talks to someone who looks Beatrice enough to appear as Beatrice from a balcony in the rain at night.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be anyone. It could be Dr. Andra for what we know.
No.
Could even be Moon Boy for all I know.
If you have to take into consideration that it's somebody there all year round, the other consideration would be, I don't like that though. It's weird. I hope it's not true. Another consideration I came up with was Natsuhi. Because there's that whole conversation. She's there year round, right?
Mhm.
And there's that whole conversation she has with Kinzo in episode 1 that doesn't actually exist because Kinzo's dead. What does that mean? But also,
Becca, if I could,
I'm like-
I'm going to cut you off the passage for that Natsuhi. If we're given the red, Natsuhi's not the culprit.
Yeah.
okay, cool. Oh. I forgot that who's presenting as Beatrice is also the culprit, technically.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically.
Who gives us that red?
That red, I believe Badler does.
It's Battler, yeah.
And who gives it to Battler?
I think that was
Isn't it Virgilia?
that was looking from Virgilia. Yeah.
That would be Virgilia. And who is Virgilia?
Which would be
Kumasawa.
Kumasawa. So my next guess, which I think is what you're leading me to, Capelli,
Yeah,
is also potentially Jessica. Were you going to
I
say
assumed
just
Kelly was gonna say
Kumasawa
Kumasawa,
is?
but
I was going to say Kumasawa is my top pick, but I want to know. I want to hear your Jessica theory. That's wild.
I thought you were going to say Kumasawa was the caretaker. I was because
oh my goodness, Beatrice did go to the VIP room at 2 a.m. actually.
she did.
Yeah.
It was because it was Jessica the whole time. No, I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say Kumasawa. Kumasawa is like the teacher caretaker to Beatrice, which she is
Mhm.
of Jessica. So that would make sense. But she's also more so for Shannon and Kanon. And I don't.
I think Capelli and I are on the same mind wavelength right now. I think Kumasawa raised the child that would have been Leon, who was thrown over the cliff, on Rokkenjiima secretly.
Okay.
Is there a case to be made that she raised this child in Kumadorian? I don't know, because at that point, why would Kumadorian have even been used if both?
I think that kid would have been found. You don't raise a kid like that for 18 years. I'm sure
Yeah,
Kinzo
but
went back there all the time.
well, for what reason?
We know she has family off island somewhere because he just was like the fuck away from his crazy family. I don't know, man. Dude's wild.
No, because he was doing so much research about magic. Anyway, my guess is that Kumasawa raised alternate universe Leon
Sure.
/ Beatrice,
Mm-hmm.
and the two of them together are like the culprits to this entire thing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at. And like the thing that has really kind of settled it for me is Virgilia gave the red. Virgilia is not ever. We're never shown on screen that she is given the authority of the red the way that Ronaway is. Who's the only other person that can give the red is the culprit. We learned that from Erica in episode 6.
I see where you're coming from with that, yeah. I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but like the culprit does have the special power to give certain reds, yes.
Now the culprit could easily say in red, that person ain't the culprit.
Sure. That is viable, I think. That's really interesting because the red power that Erica has in episode 6 is really specific. You're allowed to give reds about your own actions. That's established in 5. So yeah, I think that might be allowable.
If I'm right and you're just pulling this as a ruse, I mean, kudos.
I don't think that Kyle is. But I also think that we learned very early on that Virgilia is the one that raised Beatrice to be the witch. Like that like one who taught Beatrice everything was Virgilia. It's very possible that Kumasawa also could act like Beatrice to make Beatrice exist who would always be there on Rokkenjiima for Maria to see. We have so much like backing up that Kumasawa would be the perfect person for it, but also has a different enough demeanor from Beatrice that if Maria ever saw Kumasawa acting differently, they could easily be seen as like, oh, this is just Beatrice, and now I'm talking to Beatrice and playing with them. And Kumasawa would have had pretty decent access to learn about the occult. We learn very early on that the original Beatrice actually didn't know that much about the occult. We learned that from Maria. So they had to, when they saw the opportunity to like take this on and to get somebody to believe in Beatrice, they took it and then could use all of the resources. We also know that like Kumasawa like fucked off sometimes and just like didn't do her job.
Yep.
What do we think that she was doing?
I can't believe we're talking about Kumasawa done it and Hayley isn't here. I'm so sorry, Ben.
I know.
I
That's why I was
know,
really
I
sad that she had to
know.
leave.
I have been holding on to this theory, I think, similar to Capelli. So
Yeah, I've
I
had this
feel
for
like all of this, like, you're so right about everything you're saying. And this is all stuff we brought up over the course of this story
Yeah.
as it's happened.
Oh
And
god.
now, like,
I'm gonna-
literally, it really just does stack up. It's crazy.
I'm gonna apologize for this comment, but it's stupid funny, so I'm gonna say it anyway. All it took was for a white man to say it confidently.
I got you.
I don't know how much more confident you can get other than Hayley screaming Kumasawa done it. So I reject that.
She said that basically as soon as she was in her first scene. He's like, oh, Kumasawa done. But now Hayley thinks it's
And
Kyrie.
every single time there has been more supporting evidence. It has been pointed out.
Yeah. The whole like looking at who furniture is, all furniture, as far as I can tell, is someone who has a second personality in some way. Shannon Kanon, Runaway Genji, Virgilia, Kumasawa. Gap, I don't know about Gap, and I don't know about the stakes. Or we have
The goats.
the goats are furniture, technically.
We love the
I feel like-
goats.
damn it, what's his name? Teddy bear guy.
Sakatoro?
And his alter personality is just the bear, right? So like there's connection to say that Virgilia and Kumasawa are one and the same. One's a witch. One is the person who liked to go around making pranks, which is how these rumors and everything started, which I don't believe started with her being like, I have a master plan. I think it is just Kumasawa being Kumasawa and like got motivation to do things, and things just sort of fell in her lap. And she used the tools she had at hand.
Okay.
I do also have a sleeper theory. I don't think this is true, but it would be wild that the original Beatrice is Kumasawa, who faked her own death, or something weird could happen. Could have had, which kind of feels like, because she said, like Virgilia said, she is the Golden Witch before. So maybe Kumasawa at least knew the original Beatrice. They were friends. And she, learned her love of pranks or got away with it because the original Virgilia or the original Kumasawa.
You're talking about Beatrice Castiglione?
I don't know if she's ever claimed to be a golden witch. I think she only ever claimed to be the endless witch.
Okay.
Whether that means something or not.
I mean, and she did claim to have previously held the name Beatrice.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where it gets like, I can't theorize that deep and make it work. Like it's just too much sticking points that either is left ambiguous or I just simply haven't dug into it enough. My second theory is that it's all in Maria's head. Because like one of the main things that Will says is like, who needs Beatrice to exist? As far as I can tell, the only person who needs Beatrice to exist would be Leon and Maria. Maria's psyche hinges on Beatrice being accepted.
I can too.
And then you tie into the whole like, supposedly Maria wrote the first message bottle, why?
Although it was shown not to be her handwriting in the end. It was Beatrice's handwriting.
But if it's all like in Maria's psyche, that's like, it's a possibility. I don't know. It's the hints aren't there for it. Like at this point, the hints have to be there for it. And to me, the hints really only reliably fall in line with Kumasawa.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm very excited to see what pans out here.
I love making Kyle grin. He's like, do I say? Do I emote? Do I give something away? I don't know.
Oh, you're about to go read. So you're gonna find out some stuff very quickly.
Oh God, I'm so excited.
I'm also just like, I'm so looking forward to like when this is all over, popping into that full spoiler chat and finding the first time that got said by Hayley, and for people to see what people said about it, because historic. Anyway, even if it doesn't turn out to be true, there are two options. Kumasawa is either the culprit or the biggest red herring of the whole thing. So anyway.
I mean, she's an accomplice, bare minimum. We know that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next time, we'll be reading about 3 hours to the end, ending on the line, "Here's to the wonderful world of witches," after which there is the breaking of glass. And that is videos 119 to 122 of the YouTube playlist.
Yeah.
I think there's also a witch cackle in there, too. Yeah, so go enjoy. I think most of your questions, your questions will not be answered, but I think you will be able to pare down these theories to a single person after this reading. Or at least you will know that the story is telling you something very specific.
Say less. Let me go read.
Yep, we'll see.
All right, go enjoy. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our musings. And don't forget to hop into the Discord where I'm sure we'll have some more stuff from Hayley, or if Becca has any things that comes to her mind once she sees some of the stuff that we end up saying in the actual episode. We're always looking forward to hearing from y'all there, because it's also where we get stuff for some of the message bottle stuff we talk about as well. So thank you for joining us. Hope you all enjoyed. And remember to think off meta.